The clown with a knife and the big brute with asthma are the two villains you tend to think of when you use the phrase Nolan's Batman. But what about the man that started everything? Now yes, Ra's al Ghul is technically the big bad of the Batman Begins, however that's not who we're here for. Today we're going to dive down the less credited and less acknowledged rabbit hole of the Scarecrow, and I'm going to tell you how this guy is the most underrated character in the entire Nolan-verse. We can start off pretty simply. Building off the video we posted last week, you should watch it by the way, I don't actually think Nolan's verse has a per se weak link when it comes to villains. The Joker is special, and Bane, while flawed, is still pretty good overall. And the Scarecrow you would assume would be, well, where that weak link in the verse is, but you would be wrong. While he might be a sub-villain in Batman Begins, out of everyone, he is the recurring presence in any of the three movies. He is the complete opposite to those who come after in terms of their methods and their motives. So let's break that down quickly. It's pretty simple.
We kill the Batman.
I touched on it last week very briefly. The Scarecrow uses fear, quite literally. In the form of his toxin, it exploits Gotham and its corruption. While the Joker simply doesn't care and wants people to question their morality and life decisions, like me when I bought FC26, sub to the second channel by the way, Bane is also just carrying out Ra's al Ghul's legacy from Batman Begins. While all three villains do exploit and use fear, the Joker with his threats and Bane with the bomb trigger, it is Scarecrow who actually harnesses fear and uses it to his advantage in Batman Begins, because it's entirely built around fear. Bruce learns to master his own fears in the League of Shadows, and Gotham is controlled by the mob through fear and intimidation. And every villain exploits fear as their greatest weapon in this whole trilogy. Bane, like I said, with the trigger, and Joker in general. Ra's al Ghul wants to drown Gotham in fear. Bane wants to break Gotham, but the Scarecrow, he wants Gotham to live inside of fear. And Nolan's world grounded, psychological, gritty. That makes him terrifying in a way that others aren't. The Joker forces you to question your morality. Take, for example, the ferry sequence. Bane forces you to question Gotham's future. Take, for example, the entire third act of the movie. But the Scarecrow, he forces you to question reality itself a little bit. Here's something most people don't even realise. The Scarecrow is the only villain to appear in all three films. That alone makes him pretty unique. In Batman Begins, he was Ra's al Ghul's pawn, but still Gotham's first true supervillain. The mask, the toxin, the madness, it sets the stage for everything after to come. In The Dark Knight, he pops up in the opening act. He's not the star anymore at all, but his presence tells us that Gotham hasn't changed and the freaks are there to stay. And in The Dark Knight Rises, Crane transforms again from mad scientist to twisted judge of Bane's kangaroo court. This shows how deeply Nolan wove him into Gotham's DNA. He's not just a mastermind pulling the strings, but he's always there. Like fear itself, sometimes subtle, sometimes overwhelming, but never gone. So why doesn't the Scarecrow get the love he deserves? Well, I think it's pretty obvious personally. The Joker steals the show, completely, off of Bane, off of Ra's, off of Scarecrow. Because he's the best villain in that trilogy by a long time, with his chaos and comedy. Bane gets the attention for actually breaking Batman physically, and just that iconic scene in the sewer. Crane never really gets that one headliner moment, that one standout. But here's the thing, Crane quietly embodies the trilogy's core theme here. Fear. Joker plays with fear, Bane borrows it. But Scarecrow, he uses it and harnesses it. He bottles it, spreads it, and makes it an identity. That is literally what he does. And in many ways, he's the closest reflection of Batman himself. Bruce chooses the bat to strike fear into criminals.
Impossible.
Crane chooses the mask and toxin to do that to Gotham. They're mirrors of each other. Just like the Joker is the opposite, they are just too similar. One uses fear to protect, the other uses it to corrupt. That's why Scarecrow is the trilogy's most underrated villain, because in a story built on mastering fear, he's the one villain who never lets it go. So next time you watch the Dark Knight trilogy, don't just focus on the clown with the knife or the man with the mask. Look at the Doctor with the toxin. Because Scarecrow isn't just a background player, he's Gotham's quiet reminder that fear never really leaves. And I just want to point out across this whole trilogy, and I will touch on this more next week with the Bane video that's coming, so keep your eye out for that. All of the designs for the main three core like Batman villains, the super ones at least. Ra's al Ghul is obviously just Liam Neeson, which is cool. But the three designs that Nolan goes for are so cool and unique, and I want to touch on that very briefly now and give it its own segment. Let's start with Scarecrow's design. It's so simple, yet it's so effective. It's not quite as good as Arkham Knight, no, and I can make my own video if you want on Scarecrow's Arkham Knight appearance. I'm more than happy to do that. But his appearance, the bag in the suit, I don't know how it's not more iconic, and I love that we finally got a live action Scarecrow in Batman Begins. Joker's design is horrifying, and I think it's the scariest adaptation of the Joker in terms of how he looks, how he acts, like I mentioned, so go and watch that video. But his design is also just faultless. The smile is iconic, the scarred smile, the hair, the bags under the eyes. It is Joker's best design, and I think it will stick around in fiction for a long time. And then there's Bane's. Now, I think he's my least favourite, because I think they kind of just butcher Bane and what Bane is in this movie. But for Gotham's, like in Nolan's verse, for Gotham's realisticness and grittiness, and like I mentioned, the psychology, I think the design works, and I think Bane is really good in this movie. But we'll get onto him next week. But the Scarecrow is by far, like I mentioned, the most underrated villain in this trilogy. From his motives, to his design, to his actual moments in the movie, he is an unbelievably underrated character. He will forever be in the shadow of characters like Bane, the Joker, probably even Ra's al Ghul himself. But one thing is for sure, that this character just does not deserve to be slept on as hard as he is, because very, very, very deep down, I think if you go and watch this movie back, you would really enjoy his presence. And I think he's a very, very unforgettable villain. He stuck with me for many years. I love his design, like I mentioned, and I love the acting performance from Cillian Murphy. And the fact that he's the only recurring villain and presence in all three movies, like I mentioned, is pretty damn special. Now, while Batman Begins, if we're going to do a chart on the two movies that we've done, we went through The Dark Knight last week. Batman Begins, for me, is the second best movie in this franchise, below Dark Knight. So, next week, when we talk about Bane, yes, The Dark Knight Rises is probably going to be the lowest on the list. Well, it is the lowest on the list. But I will touch on that more. I can make a whole video essay on that. That is why the Scarecrow is the most underrated character in the Nolan trilogy. And yeah, just like me buying FC26 on release, Scarecrow makes you question your entire life. This is Behind the Mask. Subscribe because next week we are talking about Bane, like I mentioned, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, because it's going to be a banger. Catch you guys later.